Honest is a strong word, and we all need honesty when it comes to plumbing and HVAC needs. Somebody who will take care of the repairs efficiently and with quality. Honest Plumbing and Air is who I trust, and they take pride in that word. Honest Plumbing and Air, where a handshake still means something. Hey, a big shout out to Honest Plumbing and Air. They changed their name last year, new ownership group, but the same quality group. Where a handshake still means something. I am Shawn, Clynch, the host of Stories Inside the Man Cave. I want to welcome you, my new visitor here over the left eye. It's called a sty. Great way to start the year off on New Year's Day. Beautiful. You should have seen the other guy, by the way. Much worse. Big happy 2025 to you. We're just getting started, but you know what? The college football season is still going, and those Longhorns are still in it. And I've got a guy for our special guest here. We're about to induct and initiate into the Stories Inside the Man Cave podcast VIP Alumni Club. He changes young people's minds for the better, and he has a long story-broke background as a fan of Texas athletics, was in the media, an author. He does everything. Larry Carlson. He does not like to be called a professor, but he's still a fine American. Larry Carlson, let's meet him and let's talk about it. And there is the man of the hour, the guy that should have been on this podcast probably 4 years ago, Larry Carlson. Do not call him doctor or professor. Texas State professor of communication and mass media. What is the best title? I mean, I know Larry is probably the best route to go, correct?
That'd be it. And that's always preferable to hey, So, yeah, I think Larry will do it, Shawn. Or should I start calling you now, Shawn Pig Sty Clynch?
Yeah, it is. That is. Look how beautiful that is.
Man,
that's attractive.
Hey, well, just don't get too close to this ugly grill. So,
it almost looks like a makeup job almost.
Yeah, like in Dracula maybe, but
Dr. Frankenstein right here. It looks good. Yeah, no, Dracula's a much better look. I see that.
Okay.
It does coincide. Next Halloween, we're going to do this all over again. I promise.
Hey, well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say Happy New Year's to you, Shawn. Do you like that?
That's real nice, Clark. I like that. Playing off Quinn Ewers. So just to tease everybody, well, Larry just teased everybody. We are going to talk a lot about Longhorn football after we get to know who this guy is on the right. The hat and the Happy New Year's. That's a good segue to the second segment. And before we get going and we learn more about Larry and we'll dive deep into the Longhorns, follow us on all of our social media accounts, Facebook, IG, X. You can still call it Twitter and YouTube and TikTok. That's a lot to remember, but just follow us, like us, and subscribe for free on YouTube, and much appreciation for the growth in 2024 because of you following and sharing all of our content. To give you an idea, I love these. So we're going to call this the Carlson collage, if you will. It's kind of his life. He's been in a lot of places. He's met a lot of people, and he's a good friend to many. When you look at that, I wouldn't say it summarizes your life, but it just shows who you met, who you're friends with, where you've been. But I never have seen the 7-Eleven Big Gulp costume until January 3rd of 2025.
Yeah, that's a good one, Shawn. Some of my students, when I was first teaching at Southwest Texas, they made that, I think, about 87. And that's kind of my trademark. It's funny. I don't have a Big Gulp per se. I have the Circle K version right here. I mean, it's attached.
Yeah.
I drink about 3 a day, and that's my breakfast, and always bring one to class. So I don't know. Somebody came up with the idea of a Halloween costume that year. And I wore it down to the Green Parrot on the square in San Marcos, got first prize. So
did you get a trophy? Do you still have that trophy on your mantle?
No, I think I got a bar tab and it was gone pretty quickly. So had a lot of friends instantly,
Hey, the square in San Marcos is severely underrated. I will say that. It's too bad that the city of Nacogdoches, where I went to college, it started just recently, the last 5 to 10 years, started to develop the square for entertainment of college students, so to speak. So after you grew up a Longhorn fan and became a member of the Austin media on the radio side. We see the mic flag there, KVET. Who are you interviewing in that second from the left top row?
That is Randy McEachern.
He's a great man.
Story, great guy. And Randy was just terrific. My first year up there was 77 when Randy took over after two quarterbacks. Mark McBath and John Awney went down against OU, and Randy was the hero. And the rest of the way is 77, and then the starter in 78. Just a great guy, and I'm sure you know Randy and his lovely bride Jenna and all her contributions to Longhorn history. And then that's Randy and me next to each other this summer when met up over at the Steve McMichael ceremony as Bam Bam Mongo was about to go into the NFL Hall of Fame. So good to see Randy again then. But yeah, there's a couple other pictures with Fred Akers, and then my old tennis partner and best buddy Kirk Bowles. He's
good
up there. And the only reason why I was wearing Harvard, Shawn, was my girlfriend back that summer, the lovely Kelly Ryan, was her brother was playing baseball for Harvard. So I thought,
oh, wow,
I collect T-shirts. Why not Harvard? So that's how I can always remember the year on that trophy, because otherwise there are too many trophies to count for Kirk.
Of course, that's the rumor, but you've confirmed that.
Right. Wimbledon West is what they used to call it. But yeah.
So I'm glad this picture right here of Coconut Field, that's in Alpine, Texas, correct?
Absolutely. You got to go watch the Alpine Cowboys every summer a couple times. And I think that one was from just this past year, but been going out there for years. And it helps that one of my baby nephews, Chad, has a house just south of Alpine. So it's a great place to go relax 4, 5, 6 times a year. And so always fun.
So Ross State University, man, they have – I love the story of Coconut Field. That's an entire podcast in itself. It's originally one of the better baseball stadiums in the country, and especially in Texas, when that was first constructed. That facade, you would never expect that way out in deep West Texas in a small community.
Yeah, it's a great venue. It kind of reminds me, the old seating reminds me of the old Clark Field, which was – last seen in 1974 before demolition derby. But, it's got those old school, bench seats and all that kind of stuff. And it's just a cool place to watch a baseball game. And speaking of cool, Shawn, you know this, out in Alpine, you're there watching summer baseball and, night times it's going to be 75 degrees and get down cooler than that. So always a pleasant place to watch a game.
That's crazy. I didn't know about the Summer League. I did not know about that.
The Pecos League or whatever, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it a wooden bat league? Is that what it is?
Yeah. And, it's college players that are living with various families in Alpine, because otherwise they got bus rides all over New Mexico and Arizona and that kind of stuff. But it's pretty cool. Very old school and, family friendly, as they say, and all that stuff. I mean, the hot dogs are still cheap. So are the Cokes and the beers, and tickets are like $6, I think. So it's a good time.
It is a great time. West Texas sky and what is it? The Guadalupe Mountains. I think it's something like that.
Yeah, indeed. And the Davis Mountains right there too.
I forget. I need to have my geography degree revoked for not remembering that. So we'll continue to work our way through Larry's story, but a big chunk of his life, Southwest Texas, now Texas State, changing young people's lives and minds, it's when did you realize that, that's where I want to go into mass communications and become an instructor, so to speak. And what year is this for you now?
This is actually, I started 40 falls ago, 1984, but I got into it totally by accident, Shawn. Long story short, really, I mean, I'd worked in broadcasting at KVET case and KCSW. I got in a car accident, got hit by a drunk driver coming back from a story, and got a paralyzed vocal cord, which is not good for broadcasting, which explains this scratchy voice, but couldn't talk for about 9 months, and I was laid up with a broken leg, jaw, face, nose, all that stuff. And, anyway, luckily had the company insurance, and they sent me to the best place in the world, which was Cleveland Clinic. And I got back a voice because I had nothing but a bare whisper for like 9 months.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I was out for a couple of years, and then I came back and got started as the first sports information director at UTSA. And did that. And then I jumped into getting a chance to publish a magazine with a partner then. And then my buddy Kirk Bowles, who I already mentioned, was teaching along with his, writing duties at the Statesman back then. He was teaching one class a semester, or maybe two at SWT, and they had a broadcast opening. And Kirk suggested me. So they called me, and I was an alumnus, and it worked out. And then the next year they had a full-time opening, and, there it's been all those wealth and riches. You know how rich teachers are. So
great benefits though.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, and it just still is. So that's what's cool. And all along, I ended up getting back on the air a few years and a couple operations later. But what a blast. Can't complain. That's for sure.
I love that. And just living a good life. You live in San Antonio, and this stretch of I-35, it's a great place in America between Austin and San Antonio. But, you heard about it. He does a lot of things. And being a writer and a producer, the producer part is what I learned through a conversation with you. I had no idea this entire time. I mean, it was – talk about that role that you were able to play and how that opportunity came about.
Well, if you're talking about producing various things, I don't know. I mean, I worked Canadian Football League as a radio producer for the only year that they had American Experiment, San Antonio team, Birmingham team, Shreveport team, Baltimore team back before the Ravens, and got to do all that. But that was a blast. A lot of good travel, a lot of good stories, and a lot of good football. But, yeah, beyond that, I've been writing all along and trying to keep my hand in mostly Longhorn sports and, did some play-by-play for Bobcat football, color and that kind of thing all these years. And then beyond that, teaching. And so I've gotten to live a lot of, good times through my former students that one of them, Mike Kickarillo, we've been the best of friends for about 40 years, and he's the head of broadcasting for the Spurs and has been. He was the youngest in the NBA when he became that, about 20 when he was 24 maybe. So Kick, that has been a few years for Kick now. He's 57, so do the math, and he's been there longer than anybody besides Popovich. So it's fun to see guys like that succeed, and fun to still get free tickets out of them too.
Well, hey, make sure you keep friends with those types who have connections to tickets.
Absolutely.
I know quite a bit myself, but nowhere near your expertise.
That has to do with age, Shawn.
I forget. I forget you're older.
Or is it called experience? Yeah.
Yeah. When did that, I don't want to call it love affair, but that passion for UT athletics, when did that all start for you?
Well, my dad was a UT grad, and so, it was one of the first things. I was the only son, had two older sisters, and, learned the hook'em horns and the eyes of Texas real quick. And, Darrell Royal was, in kind of his third or fourth year when Daddy started taking us, the whole family, to 3 home games a year in Memorial Stadium back then. And that started in 1960. So I
Wow.
was indoctrinated. And, he and I painted my bedroom burnt orange later when I was in high school, and just that kind of stuff. A super fan and all that. And I don't know, a lot of people end up not going to their so-called dream school. I didn't, because I had a chance to maybe play tennis at Southwest Texas, so I went there, which turned out great for me. But people still ask me, so what year did you graduate from UT? And it's like, well, I didn't go there, but I was always a fan. So it was my dream job when I'd just been out of school about a year, when I got on at KVET and was sports director, and all of a sudden hosting the Longhorn locker room show after every game.
Really
And
cool.
yeah, so it was just a blast. And then, all the way through being able to do various radio shows and things like that, Shawn. So it's just been fun. And then working these past 4 years for Billy Dale with the history of Longhorn sports, TLSN, it's just, so much fun to meet up with the guys that I watched play. And then a lot of the guys I've re-met that I used to interview. And
Yeah.
so it's cool to reconnect with those guys. And just, the history never stops, obviously. So it's going to be fun writing about this current season that Longhorns are, wailing and dealing, so we'll see what happens.
So our audience who may be watching right now, who are longtime followers of Billy Dale's Texas Legacy Sports Network, I have had the opportunity to join forces with Larry, Billy, and to tell these great stories of these Longhorns of the past and present, and those who are no longer with us. Now, the mission for the Texas Legacy Support Network, how do you best summarize that? Because, I know you have some journalistic integrity, but if someone asks you, what is the mission for TLSN?
I think that Billy would say it's, to spread the word about, all those who played for the Longhorns, any sport, every sport. And at the same time, the mission is to provide a safety net,
Right.
some assistance, as it were, to those letter winners who might somehow kind of find themselves in a tough spot, fall through the cracks of the security nets in life, maybe an older age or whatever, and need some financial help. And Billy's been able to do that through his, TLSN. It's a nonprofit, and I think Billy dreams of every school ought to be affiliated with something like that.
I agree.
TLSN doesn't receive anything. It's not connected to the University of Texas, but it's the only foundation of its sort across the country. And that just shouldn't be that way. There's got to be something for these people who gave everything in the way of, the sweat equity to be able to be lent a helping hand if they need it. And so, I don't know. That was probably a little wordy, but
No,
that's
it's
the crux of it, I would say, Shawn.
there's a host of former Longhorn athletes who either have family members who are stricken with some awful disease, or, human nature is we encounter financial issues. It happens. And this organization is there, as you mentioned, to lift people up who are part of UT athletic history, who gave their life, not their lives, but their, dedicated their lives to becoming a Longhorn or as a Longhorn athlete. And you're right. There's not many organizations like this, if maybe just a handful, if maybe this may be the only one. But what Billy's doing and what we're trying to do is to tell these stories like about Larry and other Longhorns, or Longhorns period, of what this is about. to gain more spotlight on this, and I think it's tremendous. Of course, your description was much better than mine. We'll say that.
Don't know about that, but yeah, it's just such a worthy cause, and I'm just hoping for more and more awareness and exposure in the future, and you're going to help us do that, Shawn. So, tip of the hat for you and Billy to connect on this, and I just think that it's something that's going to grow and grow and needs to. And you hate the fact that people do need help, but as you mentioned, CTE is going to just continue to, be one of those forces that causes people to need some assistance, especially, if they don't have family members later in life and they need, again, some help. So we've all known, I'm sure, Shawn, as long as you were in the business and still are, I mean, it's just sad to see so many former players, especially in football, that are stricken with CTE, and I've had a friend that died from the complications of it, and he played for the Longhorns. Greg Dahlberg, who played, he was one of the all-time heroes at my old high school, Robert E. Lee in San Antonio, and then he was on Darrell Royal's last 3 Cotton Bowl teams. And Greg was a very successful dentist and instructor at the UT Dental School here in San Antonio for many years, but the CTE, caught up to him and got him. And he's just one of many. Greg Pletz, and I'm friends with his brother, Jim, who went to Robert E. Lee and played football. And Greg, of course, was at Sherman High. He was older than Jim, but, he was the defensive player of the year in 71. And he was an accomplished artist and taught art for many years. And then, it just, lives come unglued and really saps families, and it's tough. So to be able to have something that's there to help people that are connected to those problems, it's very, very valuable.
Before we take a break, what we do for our guests, I love these, and they never get old, the man cave stories. And it's usually something that happened either recently, years ago, that may be as amusing now as it was when it happened. Do you have one of those that you could you feel like you can share with the masses?
Well, I thought of this one, Shawn, when you mentioned it. It was like many years ago when I was at KVET. It's been a minute or so, but we found out that the world's #1 female tennis player was coming to Austin to play some matches for a team tennis experiment, kind of in a little bit of the off season. Chrissy Everett.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I thought, wow, Chrissy Everett is fine. I mean, and so that's all I can think of is an old tennis player. And, I was 24 and stupid. And I told a few friends, when she comes to town, I'm going to ask her out. And they went, you what? And I went, well, I mean, she broke up with Jimmy Connors and she just broke up with Burt Reynolds. So why don't I give her a shot? And, maybe she'll give me one. So I said, I'm going to do it. And they didn't believe me. And I was like, worst she could say is no. So when it got close to time, all these people were egging me on, a bunch of friends and, fellow sportscasters. Do it. I'll buy you a tank of gas, which was huge back in the Jimmy Carter days, bless his soul. But anyway, I'll buy you a steak, I'll buy you a bowl of chili, whatever. And it's like, I'll do it. I'm going to do it. Well, then the last day before Chrissy was going to be in town, somebody said, no, we have to have proof. And I go, what? I mean, you can't take my word for it that I'll tell you what happened when I talked to her. And they go, no, you got to do it at the news conference. And I went, what? So that day,
oh my God.
Yeah, out at the old Hilton Hotel. And so she took some questions and I asked a legit question about something. And then I was shaking like a leaf on a tree. And next time I got called on, I said, well, since you're in town for a couple nights and, if you're not doing anything tonight, would you like to go out to dinner? And there was just this dead silence. And I think the only noise in the room was my heart beating. And yeah, exactly. It's amplified. And so
crickets, of course.
Crickets, and everybody's stunned. And she kind of smiled and she goes, I'll talk to you afterwards. So then I just kind of was like, thank you, God. And, and then finally somebody resumed the questioning, but I talked to her afterwards and she was very gracious and said, well, I've got really obligations that I have to do here in town and everything, but thank you and blah, blah, blah. But, I did collect the bets and KVET stupidly played the tape. They used DJs to play the tape of me asking her out. And, but it's funny, for a year or two, Shawn, I'd run into people that were photogs at KVU or KDBC or whatever. I'd be at some Longhorn event and somebody come up and go, man, that took some brass, and I'd be like, okay, but of course nobody was reminding me that no, she didn't accept the invitation, but she did stare me down at the news conference the next night. And she kind of, shared something with the player next to her. And I was cocky and stupid enough to then think maybe she'll, let me know what hotel she's staying in, but it just didn't happen, but such are the things of 24-year-olds.
Of course, there's always an opportunity.
Yeah.
Hey, and it's like, it's baseball analogy. You can't hit it if you don't take a swing. Wait. That's not.
I like it. That turned out pretty well. And let's put it this way. I didn't just keep the bat on my shoulder and take it looking. So I swung and I missed, but at least I swung. So
you took a hack.
Yeah.
You took a hack.
Yeah.
Hey, and coming up, we're going to take a quick break, but in segment 2, we're going to heat it up, man. We're going to speed this up. It's going to get exciting. I can't wait to see or hear what Larry, the devoted Longhorn fan, he loves Texas State too, but he has Longhorn athletics deeply rooted. He writes about them, and we've got some things to say, but these Longhorns, they are in the Final Four of college football again, and they took a hard path to get there. And what an exciting, crazy, weird CFP quarterfinal game. But we're also going to get to hear from T'Vondre Sweat in the locker room at Tennessee, letting everybody know what his alma mater is. And that's coming up on the other side of this break. The Saxton name resonates in Austin. Jim's late father, James Saxton, is a Longhorn legend, a Heisman finalist while playing for Darrell K. Royal. And Jimmy is a UT football legacy from Westlake. He has been insuring Austin for decades. He and his staff will give you old school hospitality when servicing your insurance needs. Austin, Texas is changing every day, but one constant is Dirty Martin's Place on Guad. Dirty's recently celebrated 98 years young, and the future is solid. And this space in the back is open to host any event, personal or business related.
Hey everyone, it's Daniel here at Dirty Martin's. We're in the Burn Orange Room. We are currently booking a lot of parties back here. If you can see, we got a capacity for about 90 people, but we are excited to host any party that you might want to bring.
Give Daniel Young a call at Dirty's to reserve this space for any event that you can think of.
Why do everybody hate Texas? Please, y'all tell me that. Everybody.
Everybody in this locker room.
Everybody in the locker room, everybody in the world. Texas is on top, and I'm just saying, like, everybody hate us. You know what I mean?
We almost blew it.
Who? We won, right? We won? All right, then, we won. Fight! 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 OU! 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 Ohio State ain't gonna do shit.
Forever a fan favorite, T'Vondre Sweat.
Man, the biggin. Boy, I mean, and you know what's amazing is I've got to drop a name of a best buddy. Eating lunch with Kirk Bowles yesterday up in Austin, went up to meet him right off the plane. And so we went to Matt's. And we were saying, after Sweat and Murphy graduated last year, it was like, who would have thought that inside run stuffing game was going to come back strong? And it's like amazing.
It's Bill Norton from Arizona. You look at all of them. It's just they were waiting their turn to develop.
Yeah,
they saw the opportunity. They saw what Pete Kwiatkowski, the DC, what he could do, and Johnny Nansen, the position coach. I think the addition of him. I think he's linebackers coach though, but I don't know why I'm drawing blanks, but to your point, to plug in to two highly picked, highly sought after NFL draft picks, and with Murphy and Tavondre letting everyone know he's very proud of his Longhorns, always has been. Gotten to the debate because he's in Nashville and playing for the Titans in the SEC country. Let them all know Texas is coming in the SEC and that they are the real UT and not the University of Tennessee, although University of Tennessee's been around longer. I will say that.
Yeah, they've got a few bragging things, but not much since Peyton and T. Martin. So, we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. If we're just talking football, you're right. This past week, a holiday brain is lost on the calendar here. I have to admit, Larry, I didn't disrespect Arizona State. I didn't expect this. I think Arizona State is the grittiest, has the biggest heart, and really no fear. And it's a great combination and a fearless coach. Clearly, the players love Dillingham.
I think guys like Dillingham are going to be the future, Shawn, because I think that it's just going to – the game today with the portal and NIL is going to chew up and spit out coaches. I don't know how long they're going to be able to last. So you're going to have more and more guys like Dillingham, who's, what is he, 34? Yeah. I think that's the way it's going to be. You're going to have to get young guys who have not been beaten down and worn down by years of coaching already, and the players identify with them. And I think, Arizona State's a program to watch now. And, what he did there the past couple of years and turning that around, amazing. Of course, a generational player with Scatterboo, but that quarterback, Levitt, he's going to be back. And that guy was, absolutely slithery. It kind of frustrated me, reminded me of the way Baker Mayfield used to get away from the pass rush. Yeah. And, Texas never got him. He was all over the field like a snake. And, I don't know. But Arizona State, they were mighty impressive. Absolutely.
Well, Texas went up 24-8. And again, they were in a game in which they had a nice lead going to the fourth quarter, 24-8. And then things just magically happened. And I don't think it was magic. I just think Arizona State created opportunities. Scatterboo. Yeah. 284 combined yards, passing, rushing, and receiving. He did it all and threw up and still came back in. That's a guy, he's a throwback.
Yeah, he is. Hey, when we're doing all-time pukes, we got to salute Riley Dodge, of course.
He's right there.
But Scatterboo, that was pretty good stuff. So, epic. Texas handled him early on, and then he just got stronger and stronger. And I still don't know what happened when he went out and ran deep and was able to manage that. And I still don't know what happened when he threw that little flea flicker halfback pass. But, hey, bottom line, scoreboard. So
scoreboard.
That's all you can say.
So, and the next few topics we're going to talk about is simply because the general fan or fans in general, let's rephrase that, they're going to talk about this kind of thing. I want to start this by saying much respect to Cam Scatterboo. Hey, my type of player. Much respect to you, sir. You're one of the best I've ever seen play this level of college football. No doubt. I love the throwback. He kind of had some striking resemblance, and this is old, Franco Harris. That's what he looked like to me. So, Bert Auburn, I don't get it. And people were criticizing Sark of, Mac did it to Justin Tucker in 2011 before the field goal, before the eventual series temporary ending field goal. Sark went over them smiling, laughing to Bert, trying to calm him down, get his mind off of that. And it backfired. And then they're criticizing Sark. And I know Bert, he missed 2 field goals. I think he's missed 9 for the year. He's a good kicker. What do you think this is? Is it something in his personal life? You think it's just the yips? What are we talking about here?
I'd say the yips, and I was talking to old buddy, old Robert E. Lee buddy, Matt Langland at lunch, and Matt's a big golfer. And he said, it's just like golf. Once that gets in your head, like, okay, last time I kind of sliced it, then the next time you're able to hook it. It seems like that's what's happened. And, we've seen the great Justin Tucker, who's been called the best field goal kicker in NFL history, have his own problems this year. And who knows what evil and what doubts lurk in the hearts of men. And I don't know. It just seems like Auburn, everybody's saying it, it's too easy, Shawn, but I'm wondering why that Sark doesn't give a shot to Will Stone.
Yeah,
I mean, when they dished out that scholarship, surely they didn't think this is for just, hitting 4 or 5 kicks to put them into the end zone every week. I'm just a little surprised that, because otherwise coming against Ohio State, it makes you wonder if it's like, well, every time we cross the 50, is it 4 down territory now? Because we can't trust Auburn. So I don't know. And
he's coming back next year.
Yeah.
He's got another year of eligibility. But we'll see. I like him, but it's just really odd, some of his misses this year. And I know 99% of America can't do what he does. But the other one, Michael Taft, I'm going to say full speed. That looked like targeting, but when they slowed it down, no. He didn't launch. It was his head, as you're coached, a base, square, neck back. There's no launching. It was good, clean, and it was not – the head was not down. No crown of his helmet. Agree or disagree on that?
Agree. I mean, and not just as like, okay, I've got my Texas bias, but – I think there's what the Shakespearean much ado about nothing on this. ESPN's been making too much of a point on it, and I don't think it was targeting. And, it turned out as it was. I mean, Auburn missed a field goal after Texas got the ball back. Arizona State certainly had its chances. It was 4th and 13 for the Longhorns to stay in the game. So I don't know why it's being discussed so much, but one thing, Shawn, is maybe this leads to more discussions about what the potential, the call is and what the punishment is, because I think it's been a little too punitive on judgment calls. If it's straight out malicious, and if somebody sees that, like you said, from a launch and all those kind of things, and totally defenseless, and the guy ends up looking like a crash dummy, that's different. Totally different. I think that losing 1/2 of eligibility for a call like that, I think that these officials correctly decided we're not going to make this call, at this point in time. It's too close to absolutely make a judgment call.
It's too close. If it was more blatant, obvious, neck, whiplash, yes. The whiplash occurred on Bond.
Yeah.
Now that should have been targeting.
Now you're talking. I mean, that was a bad no call, I thought.
And I'm being objective here. I really am.
So
that was a bad no call.
I don't know.
I'm going to play. We're going to switch up to why the criticism of Quinn Ewers, but I want to play just 3 big highlights of this guy because we know what he's capable of.
Ewers He's pressured, looking to extend the play, directing traffic. Now he's going to run it himself, and Quinn Ewers goes in for the rushing touchdown.
Quinn Ewers trying to audible.
To stay alive. Can they hook him? Touchdown, Matthew Golden. Second overtime, and Gunnar Helm opens it up that way. Texas's first play.
The touchdown we almost missed to those of us at home because they returned to the action and they were in mid-play.
Exactly.
So this could go in different directions. Larry, I looked at the stats just to make sure I was right. Before the season, Quinn was on the top 10 or on the cusp of everything statistical category of quarterbacks in UT football history. Right now, he's 3 to 5. Passing, touchdowns, single season, single game. He's in that 3 to 5 category. Why the criticism of this guy?
I think it's part of this, Shawn, that we've always heard, and a lot of coaches have said it. Quarterbacks get too much credit in wins, and they get way too much criticism in losses. Well, Quinn's gotten criticism even when they're winning. So that's strange right there. But I think there's too much airtime to fill these days on talk radio and on ESPN. And I think that's part of it. The other part is, I think, just social media, that there really are, I kind of hate to use this term, haters, but there are a lot of morons out there who, don't know anything about what they're talking about, but they're easy, to quickly dish the dirt on somebody, and they expect pure perfection. And I just don't get it. I think Quinn Ewers, I think he's had trouble throwing the long ball, but then again, maybe, I don't know, maybe Marilyn Monroe had dirty toenails. I don't know. But it's like, wow, I don't know why I thought of Marilyn Monroe. Even I was too little for that. But so I'm just saying, let's say Jennifer Lawrence, okay?
There you go.
Maybe Jennifer Lawrence, or maybe who else could we throw out there? Sydney, Sydney Sweeney. But so, maybe you don't like her fingernails. I don't know. But bottom line, Quinn Ewers is a damn good quarterback, and I think he is on the Mount Rushmore right now, along with Colt and Vince and James Street. I really do. And, I mean, how many big wins does it take? But there's a lot of criticism about him, and it's just magnified more in the times in which we live, and the playoff exposure and those kind of things. Everything's under the microscope.
That and the portal, the lack of emotions that people perceive that he should have. And, this was right after they beat Arizona State, and Quinn talking about the composure and the ability to just not get rattled.
I think just first off, that's just a testament to how mature this team is, and just taking advantage of every single opportunity that we have, whether it be 4th and 15 or 1st and 10, whatever the situation is, just taking full advantage of the opportunity that's thrown our way. And I'm just so proud of the way that the entire team stayed poised and composed through the entire game, especially through overtime. And it definitely feels a lot better to be on this end of the win in overtime at the same spot for sure.
So he knows how to talk. He knows what not to say. He knows there's some things he wants to say, but he's not. And he's a faith-based guy. But from what I gather, the players love him. The players love Manning too. If Arch Manning is not the backup, would there be this much pressure on or criticism of Quinn?
No. And there's a precedent, Shawn, and you know it, and I know it, and it was Chris Sims. Chris Sims took a lot of heat because people wanted Major Applewhite, but what I think is different is Major was a proven commodity. True. I mean, he was coming off, player of the year, offensive player of the year, and then Mac replaced him, and then he bailed Chris out of a couple games and then started most of the rest of them. But then for his senior year, sat until ultimately, the just complete implosion that Sims had in that conference championship against Colorado.
Yep.
Major had the heroic Holiday Bowl,
Went to the sideline.
Yeah. And, but again, I would just say, I picked on Chris Sims as far as griping about him, but it was because he didn't show up well in big games. He had a lot of failures against OU and against Colorado and in another bowl game. But I just don't understand why everyone is so ticked at Quinn Ewers, except that I think many people think, well, we, meaning the Longhorns, could be even better with Arch Manning in there. And then maybe they'll be proven right, but every team is going to be different. There's going to be different players next year. So we'll see. But the Longhorns obviously are blessed to have Arch right there. And I've been surprised that he hadn't gotten more snaps and a little more, kind of red zone looks where it's not obvious that he's going to run, but where it's a little more RPO. But Quinn Ewers that guy is, ice cool. I already used a couple of ancient Hollywood references, but I was thinking, when I was a kid, Shawn, everybody talked about how Steve McQueen, his character, he was the epitome of cool. And to me, that's kind of like Quinn Ewers. He's unblinking. He's an assassin back there, and he could carve you up when the offensive line gives him time.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And then, a big part of, since he's been the quarterback, they're 33-9. Okay? And approximately 7 games he didn't play in. Think about that. Remove those 7 games, and he still produced those numbers that we talked about earlier. So, and I get it. He's injury prone. I get it. But he still produced. There were some games that it's just being the quarterback of Texas. So I get it. I completely understand. Always got to overhype things. You got a little locker room music, make it sound more important.
I like
it. I'm glad you do. You're the one fan. Back to the CFP, but it's expanded CFP Final Four. That is expanded to 12 for the first year. I liked it. I think it's funny the 4 teams who got first round byes winless, 0-4. Would you agree that that's the one chance? Keep it the way it is, or go to 16. But if you keep it the way it is, just because you won your conference does not afford you the opportunity to be a bye from the first round. It should be the 4 best teams in America, according to the CFP poll, who get the bye, right?
I think that's what's going to happen. I think that will happen, Shawn. We always say that in government. We can't even get daylight saving time.
Arizona, you can.
Yeah, that is true. So maybe Cam Scatterboo had something to do with it. I don't know.
Did.
But, I think that's going to get done where the top 4 are going to get the byes, and whether or not that's advantageous. But you would think as long as the season is now, it's just like people in the NFL live for those bye weeks to get well now.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it showed with Texas a couple times when you get 2 byes now. So I think that will change. But it is remarkable to think that the top 4 seeds were ousted early and showed some rust.
They did. And no disrespect to Arizona State or Boise, but they did not deserve a first-round bye.
No.
And nor did Texas. If you want to be honest, they didn't. Well, they were on the fringe, 4 or 5. That's where they'd be, maybe. But you could argue they should be a 4. There's no doubt. But the 4, no. I just – and Oregon, my goodness. So that leads me to this. Texas, Ohio State in that semifinal game against in the Cotton Bowl, which is not at the Cotton Bowl. Some people are just now realizing that. It hasn't been at the Cotton Bowl has not been at the Cotton Bowl since 2010, I believe.
Yeah.
Jerry, it's people are going to be glad because I think you and I both know the Cotton Bowl Stadium, when it hosted the Cotton Bowl, it got pretty cold sometimes for those games.
Woo, I've frozen there before a couple times. Yeah.
Ohio State. Your opinion on them, all I will say, Ryan Day, unjustly criticized in my opinion. He's won all of his games, most of them, except to Michigan the last 4 years. Okay? I still think Ohio State's top to bottom the most talented team in the country.
I agree with you, Shawn. I thought they were going to be, once the playoffs got set, I thought they're going to be dangerous.
Yes.
They obviously had a very much of an off day. I mean, they just kind of mailed it in for somehow against Michigan. I don't know, but, it's been said this week. I think Dan Lanning said it after Oregon's loss. Sometimes you have a bad day. And I remember Fred Akers telling us that in the media, I say us, the old guys.
Yeah.
When they lost to Notre Dame, when Earl was a senior and had won the Heisman. And it was a big meltdown. And he said, you ever had an off day? We had an off day. And I think that happened to Michigan. It happened to Oregon the other day. And I don't know, but I think Ohio State is loaded. I do think they should be maybe a bigger favorite than they are right now against Texas. But I think Texas is going to relish this role of finally being an underdog and seeing what they could do. And, Ohio State's played so closely to perfection that maybe they're due a few blips.
Yeah.
And we'll see. But anybody can have a bad day. Anybody can have a superlative day at this point. But it's not baseball or basketball where it's best of 7. So you got to show up with the best you got that day.
One game, one opportunity. The thing I'll say this. The thing that encourages me about Texas is they usually start off fast. They have lulls, but they are built from an experience point of view of where they played over the last 2 or 3 years, who they were up against, and the ability to overcome that adversity and find a way to win. I mean, now you can look on the other side of the coin, you can look at that and say, that's not going to work against a team like Ohio State. That's it. I like what you said. I think being the underdog is great for Texas. I think it is. I think it's a great role. On the other side, now these are 4 true blue bloods. 4 true old school blue bloods. Notre Dame is nasty, in my opinion, in a good way.
They are, and it pains me to acknowledge that, Shawn, because, man, I hate Notre Dame. I was raised that way by Daddy. You don't want to ever pull for those guys. So they were kind of like, my second favorite team is whoever's playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Back as I grew up. But I've talked to a lot of Longhorn players who said they were the dirtiest team they ever played. Anytime that Notre Dame played Texas, you talk to the Longhorns, they're like, boy, those guys were dirty. That's just, one footnote, but boy, they're good. They are good. But the funny thing is though, Shawn, that stat yesterday was amazing that Riley Leonard's MVP and he threw for 90 yards, ran for 80. He was clutch, but that just wasn't the Georgia team we're used to, it just wasn't. So it could have been different with Carson Beck. It could have been different if they hadn't gotten greedy at the end of the first half.
So many options. And don't you love the media? Oh, SEC is done.
Hey, so is Taylor Swift. It's just,
it's over with.
Yeah.
SEC, the reign is over. I think we got the 4 best teams in the country right now playing who have been able to. And it's, Georgia, they're on their backup quarterback. Gunnar Stockton, I think, is going to be a great quarterback. I really do. I promise you he will not run upright up the middle again, thanks to Andrew Makuba.
Man, that was a pop, wasn't it? That might have been the stick of the year.
I loved it. I loved every part of it. Oh.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
Larry Carlson, we have these Let's Talk About It series episodes. They're supposed to be real short, but I've enjoyed this, and it has been the longest Let's Talk About It in the history of Let's Talk About It, and I love it. I'm not going to edit one bit out of this. It's a great time. Everyone says new year, new me, or new beginnings, New Year's resolutions, but to each their own. All I can say is just be great. Try to be great at everything. Larry Carlson, tell me something good, my brother.
Shawn, I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna use a little musical reference
Okay.
from one of my favorites of all time, ZZ Top, who I did see in that famous or infamous 1974 first annual, which turned out to be the last annual, Barn Dance and Barbecue, on Darrell Royals Field, and a lot of hippies burned holes in the AstroTurf. But ZZ Top delivered just fine. But it's a great song. You might remember, Shawn, and I like to keep this close to my heart a lot of times. And it's Jesus Just Left Chicago. And do you remember that one?
Vaguely.
I don't know if, okay. Well, you're a pup. So anyway, but some people think it has a different meaning than this, but I like to take it as it is. There's this part at the end when he goes, it's talking about Jesus just left Chicago. He's bound for New Orleans. And then it says, you might not see him in person, but he'll see you just the same. You don't have to worry because taking care of business is his name. And so I just think that, anytime you're down a little bit or not, you need to be lifted up. You could kind of think about that. And
I like that.
I know I do. So I'll leave you on that one from the great ZZ Top.
Who would have known we would be inspired? And it's a profound lyric from ZZ Top. That's deep, but that is so true. Have faith. Always. Amen. Larry Carlson, I appreciate you taking time, and I'm looking forward to partnering with you and Billy Dell on the Texas Longhorn Support Network. You guys watching, listening, follow and support this great foundation, organization, and nonprofit, which essentially helps humans in need.
Shawn, it's been such a pleasure to get to join you, and come on down to the world's greatest city, also known as San Antonio, and I'll treat you to some real Mexican food.
Man, the ongoing debate, breakfast tacos, are they better in Austin?
Not a
San
chance.
Antonio.
Absolutely.
Hey, anytime you get an opportunity to talk with Larry Carlson, who does not like to be called a professor, just call him Larry. And anytime we get to talk to him, Longhorn football, college athletics, even those Texas State Bobcats and the Texas Longhorn Support Network and Billy Dell, it's always good to talk about it.
Thank you.